numerous closed sessions with our lawyers that we settle this lawsuit as the resolution has been presented to us. The lawsuit filed by the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe in 2005.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that? Commissioner Tillman. Commissioner's discussion on that motion. Vice Mayor Kilmer.
Yes, I think this settlement is in the best interest of the residents of the city of Mount Pleasant. I think that it's in the best interest of the future of our entire community. And I think this settlement is in the best interest of our relationship with the tribe as we both try to make this community an even better place to live than it is.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion, commissioners. Commissioner Tillman.
Well, I just wanted to say that as a lifelong resident of Isabella County, that it's a little bit hard for me to describe my feelings tonight when I look at the amount of time and the effort that has gone into preparing and bringing forward the settlement tonight. I had the opportunity over the end of last week to participate in some of the ceremonies out at the tribe, and one of the individuals out there who was presenting had said that there weren't words to describe the emotion that he was feeling at that time. And I'd have to say that I would echo those words tonight. There's been a tremendous amount of effort, a tremendous amount of work, and I would like to thank all of those who contributed, all of those that came forward, compromised, the endless meetings to arrive at this agreement. And I will be voting yes on this resolution because I firmly believe that this is not the end, this is the beginning. And I think this beginning establishes a base from which we can operate and go forward. And in the end, it establishes good communication and trust that I hope that we can build upon so that when there are other issues that would come forward, that we can sit down with our tribal neighbors and work out a resolution. And so again, I would like to extend my gratitude for all of those who worked on this, and I look forward to going forward in harmony with our Native American neighbors.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. Discussion, commissioners. We will have after we take the vote, we'll have a presentation by our city manager on the details of this. And after that presentation, if approved, I will sign these agreements. They've already been signed by Jennifer Granholm, the U.S. The U.S. government has also signed off on these, and the Saginaw Indian Chippewa Tribe has also agreed to the agreement today as well. So we're looking forward to moving forward together, as Commissioner Tillman says, in a bright new fashion, and affirms everyone's positions in a great way. I think it's going to be a wonderful agreement for our community. There's no further discussion, commissioners. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. That motion is unanimously approved. Ms. Grinzinger, do you have a presentation for us, I hope, this evening that we've talked about for 5 years?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain this settlement action. And tonight, after being in litigation for 3 years, the Mount Pleasant City Commission has taken action to settle a lawsuit with the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. The city of Mount Pleasant, thank you, is one of 6 defendants in a suit that was filed by the tribe against state officials. After the pertinent parties to this suit accept the agreements applying to them, Federal District Court Judge Thomas Ludington will likely issue a court order disposing of the lawsuit, its claims, and defenses. This process actually began in 2005, as Vice Mayor Kilmer mentioned, and little information has been available publicly up to this time because of the confidentiality that surrounds litigation strategy and the court-managed mediation process. With the Commission's action tonight, We can provide important information to community residents so you may all understand what this court settlement means to you. As it pertains to the city and its residents, the settlement of this litigation rests on three guiding principles. First, the settlement agreements are expected to have little impact over people who are not members of the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe or property that is owned by anyone who is not a member of the tribe. The settlement agreements do not extend tribal sovereignty or jurisdiction over non-tribal members or their property. The settlement does not affect or impact private ownership of property in any way. Secondly, the settlement agreements will recognize the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe's sovereignty or jurisdiction over matters affecting members of the tribe and the property owned by its members, particularly in the areas of law and ordinance enforcement and court jurisdiction. Finally, the settlement agreements will recognize the boundaries of the Isabella Reservation as those identified by the tribe and the U.S. government and define the area as Indian country according to federal law. The reservation includes 5 full townships and 2 half townships in Isabella County. The portion of the city north of High Street is recognized as part of the reservation. I will be sharing details with you of each of the 4 agreements that affect the residents of Mount Pleasant. Before I go through them, however, I'd like to take a moment to review how we got here. In November of 2005, the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe filed suit against the state of Michigan, Governor Granholm, the Michigan Attorney General, and the Treasurer of the state of Michigan. Through the lawsuit, the tribe asked 2 primary things of the court. First, the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe asked the federal court to declare that a reservation was established by an executive order of May 14, 1855, and the treaties of 1855 and 1864. Second, the lawsuit asked that the court affirm that a reservation continues to exist today and that it is considered Indian country according to federal law. Federal law governing Indian country prevents states and their officials from exerting jurisdiction over tribal governments or members of a tribe in a way that is inconsistent with federal law. The U.S. government joined the suit on the side of the tribe in November of 2006. Since the federal government has often treated the identified area as Indian country, their participation in this suit was not a surprise. 1 year later, in November of 2007, the court allowed the city of Mount Pleasant and Isabella County to join the suit as additional defendants. The city asked to be included to be certain that the interests of Mount Pleasant residents and property owners were addressed and represented in the legal arguments to be made. We felt that such action was warranted because under the Michigan Constitution, cities are creatures of the state, meaning that the city's authority to collect taxes, pass ordinances, and regulate land use flows directly from the state of Michigan. Any kind of decision in the lawsuit, therefore, would impact city residents and property owners by affecting the city's authority to do what it does, engage in governmental activity. Being a party to the suit increased the likelihood that our concerns would be heard. As I move through each of these agreements, I believe you will find that we achieved that aim. 18 months ago, in March of 2009, Judge Ludington requested that all the parties engage in facilitated mediation, and he appointed a mediator. The mediation procedure required strict confidentiality. Preparation for litigation continued throughout the entire time representatives from the 8 parties met in closed-door mediation sessions. Over the course of the last year and a half, wording was worked out on a court order that would apply to all the parties, and 12 separate agreements and/or memorandum of understanding were drafted. The settlement approved by the City Commission tonight includes a complex and extremely innovative set of government-to-government agreements. This solution is a testament to the participants' commitment to collaboration and their belief that the best way to build positive, safe relationships within the greater community is through intergovernmental cooperation. 4 of the agreements apply specifically to the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe and the City of Mount Pleasant. Each of them provides more detail and greater certainty than any single decision by a judge might have. Let's look first at the agreement on revenue and property taxation. This is one of the most unique arrangements that we know of between a community and a tribe. The unusual aspect in this agreement centers around trust land. Trust land is land owned by the federal government or land that has been purchased by a tribe and then held in trust by the federal government for the benefit of that tribe and its members. As is true with any property owned by any other governmental jurisdiction, be it the state, the university, or the county, trust land is non-taxable property. The city and the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe were able to negotiate an arrangement that would lessen the impact to the city in the case the tribe purchased land that was then transferred to the federal government to be held in trust. According to this agreement, if land is placed in trust, the city will receive a payment in lieu of taxes, or a pilot. The pilot payment would amount to 50% of the tax revenue that would have been received on the property when it was at its highest value before it moved into trust. In terms of other taxation issues, the settlement imposes no change in tax collection for any business or any property owner. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, whether you are a member of the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe or not, you will still pay property taxes to the city to support the police department, the fire department, the library, and other governmental services. Nothing in this agreement or any of the others affects or changes the ownership of private property in any way. Reaching some type of agreement on zoning and other types of land uses was crucial to the city. Zoning is one of the most fundamental local government functions and is critical to the orderly growth and planning in a community. The settlement affirms that the city's zoning ordinance, rental housing licensing ordinance, subdivision and land division ordinances will apply to all residents, whether they are members of the tribe or not. The agreement preserves the city's ability to administer the zoning process as well on all property, regardless of whether the owner is a member of the tribe or not. If, however, for some reason judicial action is required to enforce a zoning decision on land owned by a tribal member, that action must be brought in tribal court. Now remember that a fundamental principle of federal law as it applies to Indian country is that the authority of state and local governments over tribal members is limited. Generally, then, you would assume that the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe will have sovereignty or jurisdiction over matters affecting its members and the property owned by its members, particularly in the areas of law and ordinance enforcement and court jurisdiction. The overlap of reservation boundaries into a developed municipality is rare. Had the court found completely in favor of the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe, and that would leave us with no guarantee as to what it meant to the city's ability to regulate land use. By reaching this settlement voluntarily, a major area of ambiguity is resolved, and questions as to what authority the city preserves over zoning within its boundaries are primarily answered. The law enforcement agreement is the lengthiest and most intricate of the 4 agreements between the city and the tribal government. It most fully distills the 3 guiding principles of the settlement and clearly defines jurisdiction issues within the boundaries of the Isabella Reservation. Through a true consensus-building process, the city and the tribe were able to reach a contract designed to improve certainty, understanding, and public safety. In addition, the agreement established processes that could not have been achieved simply through litigation. First, it establishes that officers from the tribe and the city will be cross-appointed. Cross-appointment will give the city and tribal officers equal enforcement ability. Mount Pleasant Police will now be on equal footing with the county and tribal officers and will be able to enforce tribal law with tribal members. This is not true today, nor would it be a given under any decision that asserts the tribe's sovereignty over tribal members within a reservation. Second, the agreement ensures that information from driving records and past convictions of all persons within the reservation are shared with all law enforcement officials. This also is not the case today and might not be, even if the state and the other defendants prevailed in the lawsuit. Finally, it assures that all law enforcement can work together in joint law enforcement efforts regardless of boundaries. While the agreement allows for cross-appointment or cross-deputization, it does not extend tribal law or tribal court jurisdiction over residents who are not tribal members. At the same time, it clarifies that the Saginaw Chippewa tribe does have sovereignty over its own members. This means that tribal members and other Indians, as defined by federal law within the reservation, are responsible for complying with the tribe's criminal and civil codes and are subject to rulings of the tribal court or the federal court. When the City Commission considered the advantages of the settlement agreement over continuation of a lengthy and expensive litigation, the terms and conditions put forth in this agreement were critical to their decision. If the lawsuit resulted in a ruling that the Saginaw Chippewa or the Saginaw Reservation, Isabella Reservation, had existed since 1855 without considering how that decision would be implemented in terms of law enforcement, it would have likely led to ongoing uncertainty. Confusion could result between local law enforcement agencies as to what actions could be taken by which officers, depending on whether an individual was assumed to be Native American. Handling incidents between Native and non-Native people could become difficult while determining which law enforcement agency was allowed to act. This agreement was specifically designed to counter any such possibility. The final document in the settlement package exclusive to the City of Mount Pleasant and the Saginaw Chippewa tribe is the agreement regarding local regulation. Many of the most significant local government issues that impact residents of the city were addressed in the previous documents dealing with property tax collection, law enforcement, and zoning. But municipal governments manage many other activities through the passage and administration of ordinances. This fourth document creates additional understandings by the city and the tribe to clarify jurisdictional questions. The local regulation document spells out that city water, sewer, drainage, and refuse ordinance will apply to all persons and all property in the city, including members of the tribe. The tribe will adopt an ordinance to address property upkeep issues such as uncut grass, nuisance animals, and noise within the northern end of the city that falls within the reservation boundaries. The tribe will handle enforcement of such an ordinance with its own members. The tribe will amend its business licensing ordinance to include two of the types of businesses that the city licenses and monitors: taxi cabs and businesses using and storing hazardous or dangerous materials and substances. In addition, the agreement establishes a process for the tribe to address inquiries from city personnel and enforce its ordinances in parts of the reservation that are within city boundaries. This agreement, like the other three in the package, is based on the three guiding principles of the settlement we talked about in the very beginning. The settlement agreement does not extend tribal sovereignty, legal or ordinance jurisdiction over non-tribal members or their property. The Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe sovereignty is recognized over matters affecting members of the tribe and the property owned by its members, particularly in the areas of law and ordinance enforcement and court jurisdiction. And finally, the boundaries of the Isabella Reservation are recognized to include all or parts of 7 townships, including that portion of the city north of High Street. The Mount Pleasant City Commission voted this evening to approve settlement of the lawsuit brought by the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. They carefully weighed the pros and cons of the settlement arrangement versus continued court action over many months. In the final analysis, they have chosen to move forward with an agreement they believe will create a much stronger, more cooperative working relationship between the two governments and benefit the residents of our communities better than litigation could. The mediation process that continued over these last 18 months resulted in a number of innovative government-to-government solutions to very difficult issues. During that process, the parties and the Federal District Court agreed on the unusual step to invite public input into the process before the final court order is issued. Anyone wishing to comment on the proposed settlement may send written comments prior to November 19th to the Saginaw Chippewa versus Granholm Settlement Comments, case number 05-10296 BC, Post Office Box 32991, Detroit, Michigan, zip 48232. Replays of this presentation can be accessed through the City of Mount Pleasant's website at www.mount-pleasant.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grinzinger, for that presentation. And again, I want to thank the commissioners here that went through this process. It was long, it was tedious. Hundreds and hundreds of hours were put forward to come up with an agreement that will work for everyone. And I also want to thank, and I don't do it very often, our legal counsel for the time and attention they put toward this to make this agreement happen as the lead counsel for a lot of the entities that were around making this work. And so I'm looking forward to signing these agreements this evening. Commissioners, any comments or questions before I move to adjourn? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.